There's Jim. Good morning, Jim.
Hi, Jared.
We ready to roll then?
Yep.
All right. I'd like to inform everyone that Steve Batty of All Media Productions is making a video and audio recording of today's meeting in public session for Martha's Vineyard Community Television, also known as MVTV. I would also like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communications director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? If so, please identify yourself by pressing the raise your hand icon, or if you are joining by telephone, pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you're recognized, please state your name for the record. Thanks.
George Brennan, MV Times.
Thank you, George.
Nice to see your mic on, George.
That's it. All right, then I'll make the statement regarding remote participation. In response to Governor Baker's executive orders concerning the necessity to conduct public meetings in line with social distancing guidelines during the current state of emergency involving the COVID-19 pandemic, all board members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendances today would be unreasonably difficult. All board members are participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of the members' remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. All right, well, good morning, everybody, and glad you could make it, Jim, and everybody else. Bob, you want to start us off?
All right, so the first item we have is the approval of the minutes from the December 15th, 2020 meeting.
Is there any discussion about that?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Making a motion, does anyone want to second that?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Corrections, comments? Then I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Jones, aye.
Kearney abstain.
Randy, aye.
Jim?
Malkin, aye. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Talked under
Wilson.
Bob, Randy.
Okay, and Wilson, aye. The motion passes.
So before we go to the next item, I should be remiss in terms of pointing out who's in the barn here with me. So to my right is Sean Driscoll. We have, to my left, we have Bill Cludier, Mark Rosum, Terrence Keneally, Allison Fletcher, Angela Sampson, Janice Kennefic, and Mark Anderson.
Thank you, Bob.
Just so you know, because the players will be coming in and out of view as we proceed, so.
Okay. And then, so next we have the Port Council report.
Morning.
Good morning, Ed.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
So,
Nice new job, Ed. Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited. So this will be the last meeting where you see me with this background. But no, thank you. I appreciate it, Jim. So I'm just going to go over our meeting minutes from, we had our meeting on the 6th of January. It was the first meeting where we got to meet Joe Solito from Oak Bluffs, the new Port Council member, and John Cahill from Tisbury. So we spent a good amount of time just kind of getting to know them. There was a lot of offers of our support from the other Port Council members to help them as they learn up on the Steamship Authority and the operations and just how things work. So it was nice to meet those two gentlemen. We're excited to work with them over, as they get acquainted to how things work with the Steamship Authority. But it was also great to see how quickly the towns were able to get someone on the board. So, and I know both George and Bob, are willing to be helpful to the new members, as are the rest of the Port Council. So it was great to meet them. We other than our regular kind of updates on the projects and that kind of thing, we approved a 20% discount for the high-speed electric ticket books for March and April of this year for that sale. We also approved the Steamship Authority's investment policy, and that was what we talked about. As for me, as Jim alluded to, I have accepted a position with Crowley Shipping to be their business development director. So I'm going to be shifting at the end of this week out of my role as the port director here in New Bedford. I have talked to the mayor, and he wants me to stay on, with the Port Council as they bring on somebody else. There are a lot of benefits to having the port director be part of the Port Council. There's a lot of overlap in terms of what we do, and there's a lot of synergies that we've found over the years. So, that may be the long-term play, but at least for the next few months and probably for the rest of the year, it will still be me as chairman of the Port Council. And I'm committed to working with my successor here at the port and with the city and Mora to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks from my perspective. So happy to take any questions, and thank you.
So Ed, I'd just like to congratulate you on that appointment. It just shows you, good people don't stay in those positions. They're always offered higher ups and moving forward in your career. So that's just a wonderful thing, even though sometimes it's bittersweet to leave and you miss what you did, etc. So congratulations from my end. And it's been wonderful when I was working with you on the board, and even, the other Port Council, and, even today listening to your reports. So congratulations. And I assume the family is still growing.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, one of the silver linings of COVID is, I'm still going to be in New Bedford. Maura knows where to knock on the door. So I'll still be working out of New Bedford. I've also committed to staying on board with the New Bedford Ocean Cluster, one of our initiatives, that we're working on now. So I'll still be very much engaged. But I appreciate the thoughts, Bob, and it is going to be bittersweet. We've accomplished a lot here at the Port Authority, and it's going to be interesting to shift to a new role. But I think I'm sure a lot of you know Crowley being in the maritime space, so they're a company that they have a sterling reputation, and I'm really excited for this opportunity for me professionally. So
Thanks, Ed.
thank you. See you later.
All right. So we have the general manager report next.
Okay, starting with the update on COVID. As has been the case for the past few months, we continue our cleaning and sanitation efforts, hopefully reduce potential sources for the virus. We continue to use the electrostatic sprayers, backpack foggers on a daily basis on our vessels, our buses, at our facilities, using a hospital-grade disinfectant. Despite Governor Baker's COVID order requiring masks even when social distancing is possible, mask wearing compliance still remains a challenge, and we continue to receive reports of individuals who have removed their masks for whatever reasons. In response, we continue to reinforce the need to wear a mask via posted signs on the buses, terminals, and vessels. making PA announcements at the terminals and on board the vessels. And the crews have been instructed to be making additional rounds while underway. Our vessel crews continue to receive a wellness screening by trained medical professionals at the beginning of each of their watches. Our other personnel are given a wellness questionnaire, including a thermal scan by a non-contact non-contact scanner. They need to complete the form and submit it to their supervisor to be given clearance to come into work, or they're sent home. Most importantly, we've told our employees, continue to tell our employees under no circumstances should they be coming into work when they are sick, for their own safety, the safety of their crew members, and the safety of our passengers. If they do come in, we have sent them home. On Monday, January 4th, we began running the approved winter operating schedule on both routes. That schedule was anticipated to be run through March 31st. However, as we monitored demand for vehicle space, we identified an opportunity to consolidate some of the trips for the demand for off-peak times, as the off-peak times was low. We anticipated making those schedule modifications effective Tuesday, January 19th. However, with COVID cases in general on the rise, our personnel have not been immune to that. With the confined living spaces aboard our vessels, our practice has been to remove all the crew members assigned to the same watch for testing once a crew member reports testing positive for COVID. Initially, we've been able to identify substitute crews when needed in order to maintain service levels. However, with the number of cases that we had on the rise, we needed to accelerate those schedule modifications originally planned for Tuesday, January 19th, up by three days to January 16th to accommodate, to allow us to have enough crew members to relieve other crew members that are out for testing. We'll continue to monitor vehicle space demands on the schedule as we continue. On some final notes, we do continue to send out email notices to customers traveling on island with vehicle reservations on how to register with the state should they be out-of-state visitors. We continue to maintain a dedicated landing page on our website for coronavirus updates at www.steamshipauthority.com/2019 coronavirus. We ask our customers to continue to check there, as well as our Facebook and Twitter pages. E-news is a good way to hear of updates, as well as the local media outlets. So we'll continue to get information out there as if things are changing. In that regard, since its inception, the coronavirus landing page on our website has had over 131,000 visits, approximately 3,800 visits in the last 30 days, and over 1,000 visits in the last 7 days. So with that, if anyone has any questions about what we're doing for not hearing any. Next, we have the results of the business summary for the month of November. Yeah. All right. So the number of passengers, hold on. All right. So for November, the total number of passengers carried on both routes for November was down 20.9% versus a year ago, or a little over 3,600 passengers. Year to date, passengers are down 31.4% as of the end of November, or just over 890,000 passengers. Next. This just shows graphical representation of where passengers in 2020 versus 2019, the comparison. So you'll see at the beginning of the year, we were actually ahead of schedule, and then March and COVID hit, and the rest is what it is. Next, total number of automobiles carried for the month of November. We're down 0.2%, or 59 automobiles versus a year ago. Year to date, they're down 9.4%, or over 42,000 automobiles carried. Next. And this is just a, again, representation of our automobile traffic for 2020 versus 2019. Next. And our trucks carried on both routes for November was up 1.4%, or 211 units versus a year ago. For the year to date, trucks on both routes are down 12%, or a little under 22,000 units for the year. Next. And again, it shows the drop off there in March and April, May, where it really dropped off. So next, so cars parked for the month of November, down 30.5% versus a year ago, at 2,200 automobiles. In year to date, they're off 40.2%, or almost 67,000 automobiles parked, down. Yeah, I said that down for the year. And, that's cars parked, and on average, a car parks for 2 days on average. So, it's a big hit. Next. And this shows, those summer months where the walk-on passenger traffic was lower than we typically see, is reflective in this chart. Next. So from a financial status, our net operating loss for the month of November was $3,570,000, or some $1,432,000 higher than what we had anticipated in the budget. Year to date, the net operating loss for the year to date, as of the end of November, was $5,536,000, or some $15,800,000 higher than what we had anticipated. So typically in November, we'd still be showing net income, not a net loss. Next. So our total operating revenues for the month were $6,179,000, which was $452,000 lower than budget, down 6.8%. Auto revenue was up $233,000. Freight revenue was up $121,000. Passenger revenue was $615,000 lower than budget, and parking revenue was down $58,000. For the year to date, the total operating revenues and other income of $94,906,000 was down $20,950,000 versus budget. Auto revenue being down $2,627,000. Freight revenue down $3,159,000. Passenger revenue down $11,146,000, and parking revenue down $2,307,000 are the big items. Next. This just shows our sources of operating revenues, both for the month and for the year. Next. Our total operating expenses and other expenses for November, meanwhile, were $9,748,000, or $979,000 higher than budget. While wages were down $145,000, our maintenance expenses were up $1,060,000, or 82.5%. And it relates to primarily the dry docking of the Eagle being $948,000 of that. Meanwhile, our vessel fuel expense for the month was down $188,000 versus budget. Fuel came in at $1.48 per gallon, and we had budgeted $2.25 per gallon. And then year to date, our total operating expenses and fixed charges of $100,442,000 were $5,150,000 lower than what we had anticipated. Wages are down $4,057,000, while our maintenance expenses are up $1,586,000. Vessel fuel oil, meanwhile, was $2,674,000 below what we had budgeted. As so far through November, the average cost per gallon of the fuel for the vessels is coming in at $1.55 per gallon, and we had budgeted $2.22 per gallon on average. So, and this is just a graphical representation of our operating expenses for both the month and the year to date. And so the other piece of this is that during November, the vessels made a combined 1,787 trips. That is an increase of 5 trips versus budget. On the Vineyard route, we had 6 trips canceled for mechanical and 24 for weather. On the Nantucket route, we had 1 trip canceled for mechanical and 16 for weather. So year to date, we're at 19,688 trips, which is a decrease of just under 3,000 trips versus budget. On the Vineyard route, we've had 32 trips canceled for mechanical, 189 for weather. And on the Nantucket route, we've had 31 canceled for mechanical and 164 for weather. And then on pages 9 and 10 of the business summary, you'll see that, considering everything, our fund balances right now are in relatively good shape, considering everything. And with that, Mark or I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hey, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Bob. Any comments or questions from anybody?
Just one comment, Kate, and to staff. I really appreciate the structure that you're using with pie charts and things like that. You can navigate through the thing pretty quickly by that, as to putting everything in paragraph form and whatever. So to me, I'm a fan.
Right. I will say that I may have grabbed a Port Council version that Mark had presented and tried to enhance it a little. So
It's good to have both. It's helpful to have the graphic depiction and then have the details there in case you want to get a little deeper into the details.
I just know from presenting these and listening to these that sometimes we throw a lot of numbers out there, and so we thought it best to be putting them up on the screen so everyone knows where we're at. So.
I agree.
There a little competition between you and Mark in terms of the graphics?
It's no competition. All right.
All right. What's next on our agenda?
All right, next is an update on the MV Eagle dry dock. So I'll have Mark come up here and give you a quick update.
Great.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Mark.
We have the Eagle is back in operation on the Nantucket Hyannis route. Just wanted to give somewhat of a closeout. I think probably our next meeting we'll have final numbers for the dry dock at Thames Shipyard. This picture here, we had put a new anchor windlass on the bow of the vessel. You can see the anchor windlass in the bottom left quadrant, which was then subsequently placed on the frame, which is in the top right quadrant. Did a lot of work on the doors. Some may show that they're now white now, which is kind of new for residents. So we've done a lot of work and probably in the approaching $200,000 plus work on those, but it was this is a long-term extension plan for the doors. This is a picture of the inside, the hydraulics.
Wow.
We did a lot of structural steel renewal and coatings. This will last the life of the vessel now. We've done some extensive installation of new equipment. This is a new diesel oil purification system. This is to purify the diesel fuel before it goes to the engines, and this should give us some good protection insurance going forward of our fuel supply. This is a picture in the dry dock of the rudders and propellers installed prior to undocking the vessel. So the highlights of the dry docking include we're still currently putting a new fire detection system on the vessel. We've had some delays in the delivery of some of the equipment due to COVID, and we hope to have this in service during the second quarter of this year. As per the previous pictures, we put a new diesel oil purification system in. We overhauled all the generators and alternators as this is part of our ISM critical equipment. And we did overhaul of the bow and stern freight doors. So the project, although this isn't conclusive yet, is our contract numbers were 1.917 million, and to date we have change orders, contract credits and change orders totaling 1.987 million. And then that's it for the Eagle. Any questions on the Eagle docking?
Thank you, Mark.
All right, I think Mark's up again with the MV Woods Hole.
Okay, the Woods Hole is presently in dock at Thames Shipyard in New London, Connecticut. She is probably about right in the middle right now. Here's a picture of a side profile of the vessel. We've completed the top coatings in the white area above the fendering system. This is a picture of the bulbous bow. We are currently, this week, we're blasting and coating the underwater section and completing our ultrasonic thickness gauge readings of the hull. And this is a picture of the controllable pitch propellers. Right now, the propellers are at Steinling in New Jersey. They're being refurbished along with the shafts. And this is kind of another picture. You can see the starboard rudder is down. You can see the rudder stock in the upper right-hand quadrant with the starboard CP removed. And this is a picture of the shaft. It's you can see it's 53 feet long, and again, these are being refurbished in New Jersey at the present time. So the highlights of the dry docking, including we're putting a new diesel oil purification system in. We're overhauling 2 generators and alternators. We're overhauling the port and starboard tail shaft and bearings, and also the rudders, and overhauling the bow thruster. These are in addition to the statutory Coast Guard inspections and coatings. So the project as it stands right now, the total contract price is $761,000 with $41,000 in credits to date. We have 2 change orders of ballast water disposal, which we have 2 environmentally. And also we're blasting and coating the freight deck. We've found the coating system was not going to last to the next docking. This is preservation. So the grand total of main contract credits and change orders is $826,379. And we're looking for an on-time delivery. Any questions?
Mr. Malcolm?
Thank you. Mark, will the refurbishment of the screws reduce the amount of time between forward propulsion and reverse propulsion on that vessel?
No, we currently, there's 2 types of speed when it comes to changing directions. Is controllable pitch, which we use, and there's variable combinator modes. And so this is refurbishment of the blades and the blade seals. And because you have a These are different because they actually rotate on the hub itself versus conventional fixed propellers.
Okay, so there won't be any impact on that then.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, so next is an update on the SQMS project. So earlier this month, the staff met with Safety Management Systems LLC, or SMS LLC for short, to determine a roadmap for a realignment of certain imminent project phases as a continued consequence of COVID-19. The roadmap as such is being integrated into the project management plan to provide a collective effort to achieve certification still by that June 30th, 2021 date. Phase 2 and Phase 3 deliverables and documentation was issued in draft final versions as of the first of the year. This documentation includes the SQMS guide, the vessel operation manual, or VOM, and the terminals and facilities operations manual, or the TFOM. These documents are being made available to SSA personnel via internal networks and via the learning management system. SMS LLC provided online training to all the senior managers on January 8th, 2021, to introduce the training materials intended for all employees and to obtain feedback for improvement. Training materials were then updated and provided to the SSA for hosting via the learning management system. A component of means testing was developed to supplement each material as well. So the idea being is that as each section goes through, that we'll have a short quiz to make sure that everyone's understanding what they've had previously read. Training by SMS and the SSA will be accomplished via a blend of learning approaches to support live on-site training, simultaneous online hosting via Zoom, and training support via the learning management system. So SMS LLC is currently focused on Phase 4, the final SQMS documentation development phase, and that includes a support operations manual, or a SOM, and the completion of the guide. The timeline for Phase 4 calls for completion by the end of February 2021. So it's been in terms of the training, we've had to take a step back and look at how we intend on accomplishing the training. Obviously, we can't have a lot of people in the same room at the same time, so we're adjusting that schedule, but still trying to maintain that June 30th, 2021 date. So with that, Angela or I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Looks like the training will be a bit of a challenge with all the social distancing guidelines and that type of thing.
Yeah, we don't want to, we've been trying to keep crews as much as possible dedicated to vessels. So that way we're not running the risk of potentially having cross-pollination, so to speak.
Right.
So we're working out a plan where we're able to do that, but it's going to involve some on-site and some remote in order to accomplish that.
Right. Any comments from anyone? Questions? All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Next, an update on the Woods Hole Terminal reconstruction project. So since the board last met, the marine contractor J. Cashman Inc. continued to drive the monopiles using the vibratory hammer initially, but then the impact hammer was needed by and large to drive the monopiles to design depths of -100 feet. By the holidays, Cashman's crew had driven 29 of the 38 16-inch piles that support the southern pier. Then after the first of the year, the first week of January, Cashman's crew had successfully driven 8 of the 10 monopiles to the design depths. The other 2 they tried to reposition those a number of times because they kept encountering obstructions. And we'll show you shortly here. Then following that, the barge crew spent the following week trying to locate where those monopiles would need to be. Right now, the number 24. The number 24 monopile has been driven to minus 65 feet. And that monopile is adjacent to the float that will be at the end of the southern pier. Meanwhile, monopile number 31 was only able to be driven to minus 45 feet. And that's the outermost, they'll support the outermost fender on the southern side of the slip. So the engineers are looking at what will be needed to reinforce those. Anticipated that this week the barge crew will set up the false work and drive the 30-inch piles that's necessary for the passenger float. And then they'll continue to be cutting the monopiles that they were able to drive to depth. They'll cut those to height and then start filling them with the top 4 feet of them with concrete. And then the landside crew is continuing to work on the southern pier, putting on pile caps and precast decking. And then they're also working on the transfer bridge, driving the 18-inch piles for the transfer bridge. Thus far, we sent out 131 community emails for the project. And with that, let's turn it over to Bill and he can show you some progress photos.
Morning.
Morning.
This picture showing the landside crew driving the 18-inch piles for the transfer bridge. You can see the piles over there in the right-hand corner of the picture. That happened last week and the week before. Next picture. This is the neighbors will be happy to see this vibratory hammer for the monopiles leaving the site. We're done with monopiles. Next. Just another picture later in the week with the transfer bridge piles driven pretty much to design depth. Next. This picture shows the precast pile caps and the precast decking that's being laid on the passenger platform as we speak. Next. Just another view. They've made more progress in the past week since this picture was taken. Quite a bit of the decking is in place, and in the background you can see the landside crew trying to drive a batter pile for the transfer bridge. Next. Hang on, this picture is the number 31 pile. When they pulled it up, it incurred damage from the obstructions and they had to cut off a portion of it. Next. It's kind of on the right-hand side. This next picture is the damage incurred to the number 24 pile. They actually had to take off the bottom 8 feet and then we drove it to minus 65, as Bob was saying. Next. This is just an aerial view of the site. They're actually still driving the transfer bridge piles at this point. Next. There's another aerial view of the water side. You can see the two piles that didn't get the design depth. Number 31 is in the middle of the picture, and number 24 is in the right-hand corner there. Next. This is another view of from the water of the aerial view of the pier and the transfer bridge being driven over there in the top right-hand corner. Just another view, pretty much of the same thing, more of the transfer bridge. That's it. I'll take any questions.
Comments or questions from anyone? And the impact on the neighbors, can you tell us anything about that?
We've been talking to the Cranes. We haven't had any,
In general, no.
we've been talking to people and trying to gather the information. When we sent techs there to take local measurements of the vibrations while we were driving the monopiles. But the good news is we're done with monopiles, and I don't think we'll have as many complaints from the neighbors any longer.
We had more than one?
We had a couple.
We do have monitors set up, and during the driving of the piles, at no point did they reach the thresholds that had been determined at the beginning of the project in terms of, when they would have to cease driving them or, change the method in which they're driving them, so.
All right, well, thank you.
All right. And next, we have a update on the Woods Hole Terminal landside design. So we have Chris Iworks and Liam Davis from BIA Studios that Sean's bringing over. So as he's doing that, at the September 22nd, 2020 meeting, the members authorized the general manager to execute change order number 56 for contract 9B-2012, contract for final design and construction services with BIA Studios for a total revised landside services fee of $956,000. This change order provided detailed was to provide modifications to the scope, schedule, and fees for the design of the Woods Hole Ferry Terminal reconstruction landside task. The task included schematic design development, and production of construction documents. The change order also set forth the scope for the landside project, including a review of both building concepts for lessons learned as a result of COVID-19 and the pandemic response. So since the meeting, staff has been meeting with BIA Studios and along with the consulting engineers busy to developing the schematic design. And we want to share that with you at this point. So Chris and Liam, welcome. And
Liam, do you want to share your screen or do you want me to?
It's probably easier if you just share it, Sean, and we can prompt you. There's only a handful of slides, I believe.
Give me 2 seconds here.
Good morning, everyone. This is Chris. And a couple of minutes ago, there was a jackhammer outside my window here. So if that starts up, I'll turn it right over to Liam so we don't have to listen to that. This is an update of the work completed to date. The design team began working on the landside design BOD effort in late October. And we worked through that process with SSA staff and submitted that late December. And we have just begun working on the schematic design effort. But this presentation is going to be on the BOD itself. Next slide. I want to start off with community engagement. And we know this is going to be important, and this is the sort of the process and the objectives that we are going to try to fulfill with this. The first is to foster an open dialogue with community stakeholders. And that's kind of our overarching objective with these presentations and discussions. And within that, what we'll be doing is answering questions related to the project design, having discussions about design criteria and objectives, and listening to public comments and input. We envision having these through the design process at the intervals that are listed here at the 40% schematic design phase, which is going to be probably late March timeframe. And then at the 90% schematic design, which will be late May. And then design development at 40% similarly, and design development at 90%. Next slide. And this is the overall design schedule. The dark blue bars you see there are tasks that have been completed. So the BOD has been submitted to SSA, and we're just now at that red line embarking on the actual schematic design effort. And that will last through into June. At which point one of the things we're going to do is assess whether there are any ways to compress the schedule, construction schedule. And at the same time, we'll be moving into design development, which will last for approximately 6 months more. With a couple of those community presentations occurring, 40 and 90% milestones. And then the construction documents phase will start following year and complete with bidding in September and award in December. So this is the same schedule that appeared in the change order documents for this scope. Next. So the basis of design is really a quantitative document, and it's fairly long. It's over 100 pages long, but only 20 of those pages are really the criteria that we've set forth for the design of the project. And the first piece is defining the projected service life of all the major components, which is similar to what was done on the water side part of the project. We updated the building and site program. For the most part, the building program components have remained as they were before, as well as for the site. The one notable exception being the bike parking area. We're looking at moving the bike parking area to be the northernmost lane of what was what is the queuing area, but sacrificing one lane of auto queuing to be able to put the bike parking along that edge. We've updated design criteria for all the disciplines. And so our design team is comprised of disciplines for environmental and geotechnical engineering, civil engineering, those are both GZA, landscape architecture, which is IBI group, ourselves, BIA Studio, which is the overall project, but the terminal and utility building primarily. Structural engineering, which is Thornton Tomasetti's work. The mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, security are all under Garcia, Galuska, and D'Souza's umbrella. And the design criteria for mechanical and electrical are particularly detailed because of coronavirus and all of the specifications we wanted to get, or early specifications we wanted to insert into this up front. And then there are also sections on coronavirus, resiliency, and sustainability. The fourth piece here is incorporating directives from SSA staff. The project already incorporates, even before we're starting on this, a lot of directives from staff and from community engagement process in previous years. But there is a list I'll go through of some specific things that have come out through this process. We have a section on recommendations for coronavirus responsiveness following industry best practices. We've updated resiliency criteria, and notably, we've developed a sustainable design objectives section. So next. So the project service life varies by component. The bones of the building, I'd say the structure and the exterior envelope, have really an indefinite lifespan. They're going to be around for a long time. The wearing surfaces like roofs and paving surfaces have respectively lower service lives. And those also depend on maintenance and environmental conditions as to how long they're going to last. But the range is between 20 to 50 years, and then there's a number of things that are 50 years plus on this. And this is just to get these down so we all know that what the expectations are for various components. Next. And this is the fairly short list of directives we got from the Steamship Authority staff on this process. There are no major program changes for the terminal or utility buildings. As I mentioned, eliminating one row of vehicle staging. We need to confirm that trucks can turn from Cowdrey Road entrance into the rear staging area. Verify that truck staging near SLEP 1 allows clear access to the transfer bridge. We are to minimize parking spaces lost at the employee parking lot. Currently, 10 employee vehicles are parked in 2 short lanes of the current staging area. Incorporate in-road lighting fixtures where possible. The Wi-Fi antenna is going to be relocated near the sewer pump out station in the employee parking lot. And there are no special requirements for fire protection, chemical fire protection systems, or we'll be using standard systems for that. Next. And I'll turn it over to Lee, and we didn't have a jackhammer interruption.
So as Chris mentioned, as part of our basis of design effort, our team conducted a review of industry standards, best practices, and recommendations by CDC and some of the other professional organizations. So our recommendations for the coronavirus criteria for the project are laid out in the next couple slides. What we're proposing is essentially a dual stage system. So the buildings would be designed with a normal operation mode, and then there would be an enhanced operation mode that you could engage with the building management system. In addition to that, there are some elements to the building designs that would just be kind of baked into the design. And so those are passive measures versus the active measures that would be engaged when there is a need. So these are kind of broken down into a handful of categories. For the air systems, the buildings will be designed with ventilation systems that exceed the ASHRAE requirements, and ASHRAE is the professional standard organization for heating, cooling, ventilation. In addition to that, we're proposing a MERV 13 filtration system, which is a higher than required system, and that actually also dovetails into some of the sustainability objectives. And then when there's a need and you engage the enhanced system, you'll have the option for the buildings to run higher ventilation airflow performance level. And through the design phase, we'll also be evaluating if it makes sense from a operating and maintenance cost standpoint to implement a UVC system, which can be done either on a room by room basis or on a system-wide basis. So that's something that we're still investigating. Fomites, which are touch surfaces that can convey viruses and infectious diseases. we're proposing that we maximize touch-free fixtures in all public spaces. And then we'll be using antimicrobial coatings, and copper is particularly known for its antimicrobial properties. So those will be employed where feasible and where reasonable. We'll also just be designing things with an eye towards cleaning and operational use. And so that's just part of the passive measures in the building. In terms of active measures, the buildings will not be designed around socially distanced occupancies per se, although we will identify what those occupancies would be when that criteria is needed, if it ever is in the future. The approach that we're going to take with ticketing is we'll use a glass partition to separate the public from staff. And then the SSA staff wanted to close every other window to allow for social distancing when the need arises. And then we'll also just size corridors and lay out the circulation and restrooms to allow for one-way travel when desired. Next slide, please. So the public restrooms are obviously an important space for public health. So what we're proposing is that all of the water closet stalls be full height partitions rather than the conventional elevated partitions that have open space above and below. And then each stall would have its own supply and return so that you can minimize air circulation through the overall restroom. Similar to the rest of the buildings, we're proposing antimicrobial finishes, and then we'll just also be designing the surfaces and using materials to minimize moisture and joints, and to also provide touchless fixtures and doors wherever feasible. We'll also be spacing the lavatories and the urinals in the men's room on 36-inch spacing so that every other fixture can be closed during a social distancing requirement to achieve that 6-foot spacing. And then lastly, just as a general rule for adaptability, we'll be laying out the building systems so that should future needs arise, they'll be organized in a way that it's easy to implement modifications or add new functions. Next slide. So also, as Chris mentioned, we did a review of sustainable design initiatives for the project. SSA staff asked us to review this based on the input we've received so far from the community. So we're proposing that the project pursue LEED certification. LEED has really become an industry standard for whole project and whole building sustainable design criteria. And so based on the BOD criteria that we've established and that has been part of the project thus far, we anticipate that the building can achieve a LEED certification, and which tier we end up targeting, I'll go into more on the next slide, but that will be something that gets defined more clearly as we move through the design process. LEED also has a net zero certification, which can be pursued as an add-on above and beyond the base certification. So the amount of solar arrays that were included in the concept design are sufficient to generate enough energy on site to pursue that net zero certification. But above and beyond the energy production on site, there are additional requirements for the envelope performance on the buildings, so the air sealing and insulation. So that's something that we'll be evaluating as we move forward through the design. Based on the life cycle cost analysis that we do, we'll be able to present a little bit more information to you on what the cost and benefits of pursuing that would be. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the LEED system, there are 4 different tiers that you can pursue in the certification. And the way that you identify what tier you would be in is by tallying a certain number of points that are achieved across 9 different categories. Not every project can typically achieve every point. And so we are limited in what points are available to the project just based on some of the inherent qualities of the project. So our initial review, we've identified 45 points that would require no or only minor modifications to the design. And that puts us comfortably in the certified tier. There are about 21 additional points that we expect could be achievable. And there's a variety of things that we would have to pursue and look into. So what we'll be doing as we move into the design stages through schematic and design development is identifying what the costs and what design implications pursuing additional points would be. And working with SSA staff will develop recommendations for what tier we think is achievable at what cost and what effort. Largely, it's going to be additional testing and certification criteria. It's not necessarily construction cost for some of these points. And some will have larger cost implications than others. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from anyone? I look forward to seeing the design plans that you've come up with. They sound intriguing. Sounds like you're going to be minimizing truck backing up and making it as smooth and easy as possible for the trucks to get on and off the boats. Do I understand that right?
Yeah, that's been one of our goals all along for the project.
And what are the advantages of the lead system status? Is there any advantage in terms of insurance, or is it, to make it more grand, or what is tell me a little bit about that.
So I can address that. Really, the LEED certification, it's a whole series of benchmarks that can be used so that it's really from an owner's standpoint, a way for you to know what you're getting, so to speak, rather than say, I want a green building, which is quite vague.
Okay.
It gives you specific criteria. So across those categories, there's things like indoor air quality and environmental qualities. There's site design criteria, which has to do with, light trespass is an example of that. So there's a whole variety of criteria across all spectrums of the design. And as part of how we target which tier we're going to recommend pursuing, that will get quite detailed. There's different points have different implications. So as we get into the design more, we'll be better able to identify what the pros and cons of any given point would be. And we'll have a much more detailed analysis on a point-by-point basis.
Good. And can you tell us when the net zero certification issues would be presented to the public? Will that be at the 40%, 90%, or prior? Can you release anything in advance of even the 40% input session?
Well, the main piece that we won't have for some time is the cost. It's really going to be an evaluation on a life cycle cost basis. So we're going to be doing, as part of our schematic design package, a cost estimate at the end of schematic design. So at that time, we'll have a much clearer idea what the construction cost deltas would be for developing the net zero design further. And then that would get weighed against the projected operating expenses for the higher performing building.
So that means that'll be presented to the public after the decisions are made?
No, at the end of schematic design, we'll have the ability in design development to go down the net zero path or not. So it would really, I think, be a design development phase decision.
So if I may, I think what it's going to end up being is it's going to end up being that they'll be presenting us. These are the options. These are the requirements to be able to get to these different certification levels, whether it's a net zero or whatever. And then the decision's got to be made as to whether the cost to do that, whether that's appropriate for us to be undertaking or whether alternative solutions should be sought. So.
Right. So I have a question from somebody who's added a question to the chat platform, and they're asking when or if the public is going to, whether that's going to be part of the presentation before the decision is ultimately made. That's all I'm trying to find out.
So in very simplistic terms, you would expect that there would be some upfront cost to implement a system or an objective like this, and then there would be a payback period. And so from a financial standpoint, I think that's a decision SSA is ultimately going to want to make, but that decision doesn't need to be made prior to community input.
Jim, Mr. Malkin?
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong. It seems to me to be a little more straightforward than it's sounding. The proposal will be made to the Steamship Authority for this building. And the proposal will say we can do X, which will cost X to get this rating, or we cannot do that, which will cost X minus something to do it without the rating. And that will come to the Steamship Authority that will then evaluate it and would make a recommendation to the Port Council and then to the board. Is that correct?
Yes.
The only thing I'd add on to that is it's not quite as simple as looking at a method and a cost, because there's also the life cycle cost to consider in the decision. So something might cost somewhat more upfront, but save you a lot of money down the road. And that's, one of the reasons LEED has been so successful is that the life cycle costs go down when you make more sustainable buildings.
Good. So I think the answer to the question is yes, the public will have the information presented to them. Is that accurate?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And our life cycle cost work doesn't actually happen until the end of schematic design. We won't know the answer to those questions until we've gotten, through design and somebody's able to estimate it and say, oh, this is what the trade-offs are.
Good, good, good.
And then it does come back to you for, well, what do you think?
Good. Any other comments or questions, anyone?
I just want to point out that one of the things that Chris and Liam pointed out is that we are looking at repositioning the bike park. We're concerned with we've been concerned all along with the travel going in front of the vehicles, and we're trying to see if we can come up with a better solution to that.
Yeah, I'd love to see whatever preliminary maps you have that you could share.
So we are actively developing some of those currently. So I think we'll have more information to share soon.
Good. All right, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is a status report on the long-range task force and traffic mitigation groups. So at its October 15th, 2019 meeting, the members were presented a report on the authority's proposed 2020 Martha's Vineyard operating schedules and approval of those schedules. That report contained the staff's analysis of the testimony submitted pursuant to Section 15A of the Authorities Enabling Act and its recommendations for the 2020 operating schedules for the Martha's Vineyard route. In addition to those schedule recommendations, the staff recommended that the authority establish a long-range vineyard transportation task force to work together with the Martha's Vineyard Commission, the towns of Falmouth, Oak Bluffs, and Tisbury, and the city of New Bedford, and with public input to attempt to identify reasonable steps that can be taken to address issues and concerns about freight and other traffic in each of those communities on a long-term basis. Another recommendation was that the authority establish a different working group with the Martha's Vineyard Commission, the town of Falmouth, Oak Bluffs, and Tisbury to focus exclusively with public input on identifying and developing reasonable and practical ways to monitor and enforce compliance with the authority's current noise mitigation policies, as well as to identify and develop additional ways to mitigate traffic issues arising around this authority's Woods Hole ferry terminal operations, not just during the early morning hours, but throughout the day. And that expectation that those could be issued, implemented sooner than later. Those recommendations were later amended to include representatives from the Dukes County Commissioners. So thus far, the Long Range Task Force has met on 5 occasions, and the Noise Traffic Mitigation Group has met on 3 occasions with a quorum. So with us today, I've asked Steve Sayers to join us to provide the members with an update of how those meetings have been going. So Sean's bringing Steve over.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for coming.
Hi, Steve.
Hi. I know a number of you are aware of what's been happening on with these 2 groups because I see you in the attendees list from time to time, even though I understand I missed Mr. Malcolm's raised hand one point and did not call on him because I didn't know about it. But we have been meeting monthly to every 6 weeks and discussing issues that Bob described. Going first with the Long Range Transportation Task Force for the Vineyard. There are 11 members of that task force, 7 of whom are from the Vineyard, and I think they represent a who's who among both the Vineyard and the Falmouth community. We are in a stage of having what I would describe as preliminary discussions and fact gathering. And it's still too early to know what recommendations, if any, that the task force will come up with. I think the first series of meetings established among all the members of the island residents who were on the task force that traffic is a big problem on the Vineyard and that they would love to see less automobile traffic on the Vineyard, but no one has a solution for that. And they also realized that the Steamship Authority, although it is a part of that problem, is certainly not the only part of that problem. There are factors on the Vineyard independent of the Steamship Authority that are causing that. We then worked onto the discussion of what our traffic growth will be on the Steamship Authority to the extent we get more traffic demand, especially in the freight area, what impact that will have on our occupied capacity levels. We compared this to what was happening on the Nantucket route, which effectively has been a capacity for several years now. And as freight demand has increased on the Nantucket route, we have seen fewer and fewer cars being able to be transported between Hyannis and Nantucket, especially during the summer season. And the impact that that has had on Nantucket residents who want to be able to travel off island and their less ability to do so. We talked about that this may be a potential problem on the Vineyard route as well, if we are not able to increase our capacity, assuming that we get more freight demand, and what the impacts will be on resident travel as well as tourist travel coming back and forth to the island. Again, we're only discussing these. We aren't coming up with any solutions. We've talked about the restrictions of our physical facilities, our port facilities, and our vessels that we are effectively, even on the Vineyard route, are operating at full capacity during the summer season, except for some additional capacity that we could have either by putting the Sanctity working that 7 days a week instead of 5 days a week on a triple crew instead of a double crew, and also going, unfortunately, from a triple crew to one of the boats to a quad crew to allow it to operate 24 hours a day. This discussion has brought in the input from the Falmouth community representatives, saying that if we have historically increased capacity simply by starting earlier in the morning, is that going to be the Steamship Authority's only solution to increase demand, starting earlier and earlier? And that has created a discussion among both the Vineyard and the Falmouth representatives in terms of trying to decide what the solution to that will be. One of the possible solutions would be to have alternative service to another mainland port, notably New Bedford. And we have started those discussions just in terms of a fact gathering stage, and no recommendations are being made. At the last meeting for the task force, we had a long discussion with Ralph Packer of Tisbury Towing and Transportation about what his barge operations, which already exists in both New Bedford and the Vineyard, could do as a supplement to the Steamship Authority's operations. What was interesting to realize, and we forget so often, is how much freight traffic Ralph Packer already does provide for the Vineyard. I was surprised by the tonnage figures that he was giving us, and how much that the island depends upon that barge service already, and in terms of taking a lot of pressure off the Steamship Authority. The next meeting we had planned to call in Ed Anthus Washburn as the port director of the city of New Bedford to talk about the progress being made on the North Terminal in New Bedford. Unfortunately, as you heard earlier this month, he has resigned. And so we are going to be deciding who to bring on to talk about the New Bedford equation, either possibly the new port director or someone else along that line. Again, this task force is only in the fact gathering stage. It's only having preliminary discussions. Everyone is open-minded about what may happen, and everyone is looking out not only for their interest, but for the interest of the other communities, I think it's fair to say. It includes people who are longtime attendees of the Steamship Authority. Leon Braithwaite is on the task force, and also John Cahill, who is now the Tisbury Port Council member, as well as a Dukes County Commissioner. And we will continue to meet. We hope there has been discussion among the task force members at the end of this process, which may take a year or 2 years. These problems are not going to be solved in a short time, of writing a white paper for the benefit of the Steamship Authority and the communities, just to memorialize the progress that they will have made at that time period. And that's the task force, because that's going to take a long time, and just getting the communities to talk about these issues with each other is an achievement by itself. We also are working with a working group to try to enforce and determine our enforcement with our traffic and noise mitigation policies that we already have established at the Woods Hole Terminal. And that group is separate. It has 8 members, and there are 4 members from the Vineyard, 2 members from Falmouth, and 2 members from the Steamship Authority. I'm one of those members. And the other Steamship Authority member is Allison Fletcher, who's our Director of Shoreside Operations. And that is evolving nicely in a way of talking about all of the problems, and our operations do cause problems in the village of Woods Hole, and how to address those on a short-term basis while the task force determines whether there are any long-term solutions. We've realized that the level of traffic that we have through Woods Hole presents problems. That's not the jurisdiction or the mission of the working group. The working group is just to see what we can do at the current level of traffic. And that means enforcing our policy that freight trucks not arrive before 30 minutes before their departure in the early morning. We have had that policy for a long time. Our enforcement had been spotty in the past. We had complaints of trucks coming down Woods Hole Road at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. We have taken a consistent enforcement by emailing all of the freight shippers whenever their trucks come down early. For the most part now, they are only 1 or 2 minutes early. And they are extremely sympathetic to the problem, we have found out. Cape Cod Express, Keen Excavation, and Greg Carroll's outfits. He has so many, I don't know how many there are. And we have really improved the times that the freight trucks have arrived. We also have sent out, Bob sent out earlier this or last year, a postcard to all of the Woods Hole residents and the Falmouth residents south of Jones Road, asking them to contact us. We have a dedicated email address now for Woods Hole traffic at steamshipauthority.com, WH traffic. And we are getting emails from residents whenever they encounter problems, whenever they have noise problems. And we've talked about Allison and possibly the Woods Hole terminal manager going out to visit these neighbors. And when they say that they have jake breaking problems, things that people should not be doing on Woods Hole Road, to find out whether we can determine who those violators are, the ones who are abusing the neighbors, and ask them to take corrective action. Based upon the responses we've gotten from the freight shippers to date, we don't expect anyone to object to us coming to them and asking them to correct. As Doug Jones, who's Falmouth Selectman, who's on the working group, said, it's often a time that these people don't know they're causing a problem. And when the problems are presented to them and that they are the reason for them, that they will respond. We hope that to be the case. We have had a discussion about how else we could enforce these things, and it's not our job to enforce violators of the law. And I think everyone on the working group agrees with that. It's just that if we can be better neighbors and have our customers be better neighbors, that's our goal. We're talking about that. We have a number of discussions, but those, we think appropriately, are about the complaints that the Falmouth and Woods Hole community raises during these meetings about our operations. And then we have sometimes a difficult discussion about what we can do and possibly cannot do about those. So we're still continuing those. I don't know what the end date is for the working group. In some ways, it's always going to be a situation, as Mike Morrow, who's the transportation planner for the Martha's Vineyard Commission, said, you have to stay on it. You can never let up. You always have to keep on going after your customers to comply with the rules. And that's something that could be indefinite. But these are long meetings about focused subjects. And I think everyone on those everyone's doing their best in order to help out. And I hope it's improving the relationships between the two communities, because as John Cahill said, the two communities are really one community separated by a body of water and a ferry service called the SSA.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Jones?
Yes, hi, Steve. Thank you for coming to the meeting. I have chimed in several times on the meetings, and sometimes late, sometimes I can't, but there were several issues, nothing to do with the charge of the groups and what they're doing and the way they're doing. But I have an issue with, which I've had from day one, is the complexion of having the general manager and staff as a member of a board. And an advisory board is a voting member, and the conflict thereof. When this all started, there was no talk of this being part of the open meeting law or anything else. I don't think we knew that. Or if it was, it wasn't brought forward. I know I did a research on it and basically found that they are in fact a board that is under the open meeting law and the Steamship Authority. And I guess you found out the same thing by going to the maybe the Attorney General ought to get a reading on that. And so we have under the open meeting law. Now, under the open meeting law, evidently, for whatever reason, you recused yourself of that and you stepped off of the board, which I think you were an original member. And, you know, for a conflict of interest or whatever reason you did that, which I thought was a good move. I still have issues with having the general manager and staff as a member of an advisory board where they have to take from there and make determinations, you know, to be presented to our board. So it gets a little cumbersome. And I think under the purity of the open meeting laws that they really cannot communicate with any of the members of these boards, you know, throughout the times that they're not meeting, and give, you know, opinions and things like that of the things that can't be discussed under the open meeting law, and that doesn't work. So my suggestion is, and that they be taken off as official members. They are put on the minutes as members. And to be a staff assistant. That wouldn't change a bloody thing. It would be, but it would give, alleviate one potential problem of, you know, abusing the open meeting laws. I don't know if you follow suit on that, but that is my recommendation. When this first started out, I listened, and there was a couple of questions. One of them was asked, which I thought was a great question, you know, whether there'll be a white paper, you know, written of the proceeds and things, and basically questions of where you're heading, what conclusions will you know, come forth out of this. So this is in the initial periods, and everybody's trying to figure out exactly, you know, what they're supposed to do, what they're not supposed to do, etc. One thing that I'm concerned about is that the board, at least I have not received anything about the goings on of this committee. This now is an advisory committee under the umbrella of the Steamship Authority. We already have an advisory committee known as the Port Council, which is under the Steamship Authority, of which we get minutes and interactions and reports on a monthly basis. I don't expect this committee to give a report to the board necessarily on a regular basis, but I do expect to know what's going on and get copies of the minutes. Now, I talked to Bob several times about getting the minutes, and they weren't forthcoming, and I know they were being printed because every meeting it was the approval of the minutes. So the other a week or so ago, or whatever, I was into the website, and lo and behold, there are the minutes, and they were distributed for this meeting here. And I think there was 5 or 6 sets of minutes that were in there, and I was asking for those minutes right along. I wasn't jumping up and down or anything else because I attended most of the meetings, but the public hasn't. And I think if we were under the open meeting law, I mean, it's certainly a public process, and they should have, when those minutes are printed, they should be online. I don't think we have a policy only approved minutes are online. We, you know, disseminate the minutes as they come forth. So that's an issue for me. In listening to the comments and suggestions, I find the land side and things in what you just talked about, you know, in the Falmouth and the traffic situation, that you're dealing a lot with regulatory. Early on, you had mentioned that, I don't know, after one hearing, meeting, or whatever, review, that you went to the police department and you were going to go to the DOT. And so flags are going up, you know, with me is, you know, what are the four corners of their charge? And I think in the future, I mean, I'm asking, specifically that I get copies of the minutes when they're done, and I'd like to be more informed, just like you're doing now, of what's happening and doing that on a periodic basis. The ultimate end of this is the board may have to vote on some of these things. Many things I think that you're talking about in Falmouth, the regulatory things and stuff like that, most of those which they are being can be handled, at management level, which is just fine. If we don't have to worry about it on where we're sitting, I'm happy for that. But I also, so I have a question, Steve, and you know the open meeting law better than most. And I know we've had our discussions on the open meeting laws. But in any event, I first of all would like to know whether you feel that a member, of a body who is an employee and has to handle those items and issues can be on an advisory committee and then it put from there for implementation. Now, maybe that's not worded quite correctly, but I think you get the point. So I'm going to ask one more question, which came up, and this isn't a big deal with me one way or the other, but we have a new element where we now have an advisory committee member that is now on the Port Council. And the Port Council has always been, populated by numerous people. Like when I was on the town council when I was appointed to it, and we had selectmen and things. So that's not a big deal. But now we have a regulatory or an advisory committee reporting to another advisory committee where that person will have a vote on that and then pushing it forward. So I don't think there's a big deal on this, but I'm asking you, for your opinion, that's all. And that's all. I have other issues, but we don't need to stay on the subject forever. So I've said my piece and maybe others have some thoughts, but thank you. Thank you for coming, Steve.
No, and thank you. Those are all good issues. I think the way that these two groups are functioning today, that there is no need for the two Steamship Authority employees who are on the task force are Bob Davis and Mark Rosem. And there is no need to have them be official task force members. We're all discussing, we're all there providing information, facts, figures. They certainly need, the task force certainly needs their presence there in order to be sources of information. But if we were just trying to get these two groups up and running back a year and a half ago. And I think what your suggestion is would be an improvement, that we probably would like to have the staff be supportive personnel the same way the staff are supportive personnel for the Port Council and the board. And that would also be the same way with the working group. That is myself and Allison, who are the working group members who are Steamship Authority employees, and we can simply be there supportively and reporting to them on all of our efforts. I don't think that would change the dynamics of either of those groups at all. I don't think it's an issue at all to have John Cahill be part of, he's part of both groups, by the way, and a Port Council member, because often boards of select boards and commissioners, they often have subcommittees who have commissioners and select members on those, and then they report up to the board. So I don't see that to be an issue at all. And I think both John Cahill has played an instrumental role in both of these groups. And so I would definitely want to keep him on both of those. But as far as the Steamship Authority employees, we can be in supportive roles. And I can go in that direction. If Bob agrees with me, I should have asked him first, but I'm known for always speaking too soon on these types of things.
Yeah, and just to highlight the point that I would like to get a copy of the minutes and stay abreast of what's happening.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Our intent is on a going forward basis that whenever there are minutes, that we'll be including them in your monthly packets.
Good. And Mr. Jones, you brought up a question you had about the working group talking with the police and the DOT. Do you want to follow up with that question?
Shall I respond to that one?
If you don't mind, yeah.
Certainly. Before the working group had a quorum, we did meet with the Falmouth Police Chief just to see what assistance they could give us in determining whether there was a speeding problem on Woods Hole Road, whether they could put a speed counter up there. We thought that would be good information for us to know about what our customers are doing. We did get back a report from them. They did put a speed counter up there, and it turned out, I have to be very careful because I don't recall it. While there is some speeding at that point of Woods Hole Road, it had not risen to the level where it, in the opinion of the Falmouth Police, or according to their standards, would be an enforcement issue. That there was some potentially going faster than the speed limit, but not to such an extent that they consider it to be a speeding problem, which was good news for us to have. We went in there not knowing what we would learn, and we were happy to learn that we don't have that much of a speeding problem there. We are not, the working group was having a discussion itself about how to enforce or whether to enforce the regulations. I think that's something that the working group probably constructively can work out. I think it's fair to say that if there are violations of the law going on, that it doesn't have to be us to ask for enforcement. It can be any citizen on that road, any citizen in that community. And so it's not something that the working group has to be involved with. We're more involved with trying to get people to comply with our rules and policies in order to mitigate traffic and noise.
Good.
And the other thing for MassDOT, we have been talking about going to MassDOT to try to get more speed limit signs. There are only, I think, 3 speed limit signs on Woods Hole Road. And sometimes people don't know whether it's 35 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour, or 25 miles an hour. They're all different signs. And then when it gets to Woods Hole Village, I think it comes down to 25 again. It might be a good idea to simply ask MassDOT if they can put up more speed limit signs. I'm not sure, but it's worth a discussion among the working group members to say if that's going to help our customers slow down and make it easier for the neighbors, why not try?
Well, I've been impressed with the candor of the participants and their willingness to really get into the details when they have their conversations. And several times I've heard one or another person say, this is the first time I've really realized that that's happening there. So I think kudos to you to both the groups for doing what they're doing. I think they're going in the right direction, getting the information and getting the line of communication open. I have a comment here. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for advocating for additional transparency to the public. I also appreciate seeing the meetings and materials posted in a timely manner on the SSA's website. I would also ask the SSA to post all of its press releases on the SSA website. I've not been able to find them there. So I'm sharing that.
They are all posted on there.
Great.
So I can communicate with Mary individually and tell her how to locate those.
Terrific. Thank you, Sean. Anybody else have any comments, questions? Mr. Malkin?
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I'll lower my virtual hand now. Steve, thank you for coming to the meeting. Just quickly, I've sat in as a attendee on a number of the meetings that you discussed, the long range as well as the workforce group. and I have a question, being the new kid in town. I absolutely get the idea of community involvement and community participation, community outreach. And I'm delighted that these meetings are going on. And so thank you for moderating them or facilitating them. What I don't understand is clearly is the process and the potential output from these groups. Because we have this board, we have a port council, both of which are in the enabling legislation. And while I understand getting community input, sharing ideas across the communities impacted by the Steamship Authority, I'm interested in your view as to what the output is from these two groups. Because the concern I have is if we go beyond sharing the data that's gathered and the information that's gathered from these working groups with the management of the Steamship Authority, who would then, in my opinion, take that information, put it into a recommendation to the Port Council and then to the board for action. Well, that makes sense. My concern is when we get into discussions, for example, with Ralph Packer, who runs a terrific operation, but we begin to have a group, a task force that is not part of our management, discussing with him what his operation might be, that we then get into a realm that makes me slightly uncomfortable, which is because frankly, if Ralph Packer wants to make a proposal to the Steamship Authority to run a service, then he should do so. But I don't think that it behooves our groups to be involved with him in studying what his commercial operation might be. I think that's something that he should do on his own as a smart business person. And then the Steamship Authority should react to that. I use that as an example because my question really goes to what is the output? What are we intending to do with the information that these groups gathered? And then how does it work through the management and the oversight of the Steamship Authority? Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all good questions. And that's why these two groups are both works in progress, because we wanted, as I said, we just wanted to get them up and get the dialogue starting. We have to pay more attention to what's going to ultimately be the result of these groups as we go along. With respect to your first scenario, I do envision that there may be some recommendations that these groups come up with that will go through management, go to the Port Council, and then go to the board for discussion and either approval or revisions or rejection. That would be a normal way for these recommendations to come up for anything having to do with our operations. But I think with the task force for the long range plan and also discussion with Ralph Packer specifically, I think we have to get a handle on the fact that we are an important player, but we're one player in the transportation on the island. And Ralph Packer at this point could start a barge operation with baled trash without any approval by the Steamship Authority because he is protected under the Enabling Act. And we have an agreement, a Declaration of Rights and Responsibilities where he would be able to do that on his own. But I think it's important for us to be in this way a participant in that discussion with the vineyard about how Mr. Packer's operations can assist them in their traffic issues, their solid waste issues, and what impact that may have on the Steamship Authority's operations. Where that goes, we cannot require Martha's Vineyard to ship all of its solid waste by barge. That's not jurisdiction. But just to have a discussion about it so that people are there. The vineyard participants, they're members of the Martha's Vineyard Commission and the Dukes County Commissioners and the two towns that are our port towns. They may decide that this is an important issue and they may independently say, let's have the Martha's Vineyard Commission address this and move forward with this. We can be a seed of this discussion for the community to have it as a whole. And so this does leave open the option of these discussions taking root in a variety of routes. We just have to make certain that I think the best way, as the woman said, and as Mr. Jones has made certain, we have transparency, that everyone knows what's going on. And we'll all do our best to communicate and look after each other's interests.
Thank you.
And thank you, Rob, for keeping up values and wearing a tie.
Good to see you, Steve.
Even I could do that, so. It's a nice tie at that.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. Bob, we don't need to take any vote on this. We're just, it's for information purposes, right?
Correct. There's just an update, and I think the intent would be to be coming back on a periodic basis. Maybe it's on a quarterly basis with a brief update as to what what's been going on.
Terrific. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Steve.
Bye, Maura.
Nice to see you.
Hi, Steve.
All right, so our next item is internet openings.
Yeah, so we just wanted to provide a brief update on the recent internet openings for the 2021 summer season. The results of the opening are as follows. On the Nantucket route, on Tuesday, January 12th, the authority processed 5,151 transactions, representing nearly $2.8 million in revenue for just the summer season for Nantucket. By comparison, on the internet opening in 2020, the authority processed 4,717 transactions for about $2.4 million. On the Martha's Vineyard route, the opening was Tuesday, January 19th. On that day, we processed 14,997 transactions, representing over $3.8 million in revenue. And for the general internet opening in 2020, we ended up processing 14,853 for about $3.3 million. So although some of the peak time travel times may have already been taken, we do want to remind our customers and potential customers that there's still plenty of available opportunities to book summer travel on board our vessels. And there's, of course, the waitlist feature, which provides the opportunities to improve times if their initial times are already taken. But in terms of it, I want to point out the improvements that were made to the software and hardware systems were evident as the customers reported a smooth and quick experience this year. In that regard, the authority's MIS departments, our reservation office, as well as the various vendors and consultants that worked on the project should be thanked. And by the way, tomorrow our phone lines open as an additional means by which customers can book their summer travel. Shameless plug for.
Mr. Malkin?
I just wanted to express thanks to the Vineyard, to Kurt and technology, Allison and reservations, and everybody else. I was looking forward to the day of the opening on the Vineyard with some trepidation, and it was delightfully uneventful. So thank you for all the work that went in with systems and training and everybody in the Steamship Authority that worked on that issue. Thank you.
Good. All right then. Next item, proposed new senior network engineer and security analyst.
Yeah, so this item is to request that the members approve the creation of a senior network engineer / security analyst position with the MIS department at a job grade 13, sorry. The new position will provide networking, engineering assistance, and additional protection of information in information systems from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, or destruction in order to provide confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the authority's systems and data. Cyber threats occur on a daily basis, including multiple external attempts being attempted to gain access to the authorities' data and/or systems. Attempts to access data and systems are also becoming more sophisticated. So the network security's best practices needs to be addressed continually addressing vulnerabilities either in the network or the implementation of protocols. This position is responsible for assessing information risk and to facilitate remediation and to identify vulnerabilities across our networks and systems. So the staff is requesting that the approval of the creation of a senior network engineer / security analyst position in the MIS department at a job grade 13.
Do we have a motion in support of this? From anyone?
Sure, I'll make a motion to support it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just say that this is probably something that's long overdue.
And the problem with this particular field and endeavor is there are so many pirates, around the world now, and people interested in destroying things both nationally and also on the home front. I mean, you just can't be too safe. I mean, no matter what you do, you got to protect yourself. And even if I have to change my password every other day, which drives me nuts.
So are we ready to take a vote then? Roll call vote.
Malk and I.
Randy, I.
Jones, aye.
Tierney,
And
aye.
Wilson, aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right.
Pre-season promotion.
Yeah. So for the past 9 years, the authorities offered a 20% discount on the sale of high-speed passenger ticket books for a short time prior to the MVINO's return to service. So we attached a schedule of what's happened the last few years on this promotion. It's very popular. Over 45% of the yearly ticket books for the INO are sold during the promotional period. The staff is proposing that the authority continue to offer the 20% discounts on the sale of electronic ticket books for the high-speed ferry during the period of Sunday, March 21st through Saturday, April 3rd, 2021. The discount would apply solely to electronic ticket books, for adults, seniors, and children. So by example, the adult book right now is $300. 20% discount would make it $240. The senior tickets are $205. We make it $164. And the children's tickets are $182. And there'd be $145 with the discount. So last year, when we started our preseason sale, it dovetailed nicely with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. And because of the delay in getting the boat back into service and with all the uncertainty going on, the sales were not up to normal during that period. And you may recall that we asked the board to be able to open it up again shortly before the boat went into service because of the delay. So as part of our requests, well, we don't anticipate that to be occurring again. We're looking to also to allow for us to make the modification to the sale dates if need be, if the schedule is changing.
Do we have a motion in support of this?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Questions, comments? All right, let's have a roll call vote.
Randy, I.
Malk and I.
Jones, aye.
Tierney, aye.
Wilson, aye. Thank you, everybody. All right. Modification to center plate agreement.
Okay, next is to recommend that the members agree to waive the minimum annual guarantee for the concession fees for the calendar year 2021 under its food concession contract number 06-2017 with Boston Culinary Group doing business as Centerplate. So recently, Centerplate's Regional Vice President Pete Chuna inquired whether the authority would relieve Centerplate of its obligation for any minimum annual guarantee concession fee for the calendar year 2021 under the contract. And under the contract for 2021, the minimum guarantee is $730,000. So following the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, the authority has closed the food concession services on board the vessels. And as a result of the decision, Centerplate did ask for relief from several of its contractual obligations in July 2020 related to 2020 season, which the board, the members approved at that time. Staff believes that Centerplate should be relieved of its minimum annual guaranteed concession fee until such time as the authority reopens its concessions services on board its ferries. So our recommendation is that the members vote to authorize the general manager to waive the minimum annual guaranteed concession fee for calendar year 2021 as set forth in food concession contract number 06-2017 with Boston Culinary Group doing business as Centerplate as presented in the staff summary.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Jones?
Bob, I assume that if, once we open these concessions and they're available for service, that we will be paid our normal percentages throughout that time without the minimum applied.
Yeah, we're just asking to have the board waive the minimum guarantee on the services.
I would move so.
Do we have a second?
Second. I'll second that.
Any further questions or discussion? Roll call vote.
Falcon, aye.
Randy, aye.
Jones, aye.
Tierney, aye.
Wilson, aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Moving right along. License agreement amendments with C Street.
All right. The next item is to request approval of amendments to the authority's license agreement with C Street LLC, which operates seasonal passenger ferry service between New Bedford and Martha's Vineyard and between New Bedford and Nantucket. So you recall back in the October 17th meeting, the members approved a renewal of C Street's license agreement for 2021 between New Bedford and the islands. But their proposal was different in that they were proposing year-round service at that time. And during the off-season times, the proposal had included inter-island service as well, since there's no Highlines contract doesn't have their license agreement doesn't have inter-island service in the off-season. So the members did vote affirmatively for that contract. Actually, the following day, C Street notified me that because of decreasing demand, they actually were going to cease operating for the remainder of 2020. Then at late December, they notified me that they intend to discontinue service until their May summer period. So basically, the proposal that they've now given us is to go back to what they previously had been licensed to do, which is the summer, spring, summer, and then early fall schedule. The proposal times that they have submitted, we've looked at those, and there is conflicts that we see on that. We still need to work those out with C Street. And they also were looking at during the shoulder seasons to be providing inter-island service. And as part of that, that falls under the license agreement that we have with Highline. So the recommendation that we have is that for C Street's latest request to amend the 2021 operating schedule for its high-speed services from New Bedford be approved for services between May 19th, 2021 through October 31st, 2021, with the following exceptions. C Street cannot operate its proposed early fall inter-island service between September 7th and October 3rd, 2021, because Highline is the license holder for this service. And all of C Street's proposed arrival times in Vineyard Haven, Oak Bluffs, or Nantucket that conflict with arrival times of the authority's traditional ferries in Vineyard Haven, in Oak Bluffs, as well as the Nantucket and the high speed on Nantucket, must be vetted and resolved to the satisfaction of the authority's general manager and its marine operations department, as well as shoreside operations department. So,
Do we have a motion in support of this?
I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
In a second.
Second.
Any
Second.
questions, discussion about this? Sounds like everybody's working pretty well together here. Should we have a roll call vote?
Jones, aye.
Second, aye.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, I.
And Wilson, I. Thanks, everyone. All right, so now we get into the treasurer's report.
yep.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'd like to bring up our investment policy. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts requires us to formally adopt our investment policy every 2 years. The Steamship Authority's board formally adopted the investment policy back in 2003 and formally reauthorized the investment policy in the odd number of years since 2013 through 2019. As a side note, on the even years, we do the debt policy statement. This year, we're not recommending any changes to the existing policy. We invest conservatively on a short-term basis, short-term meaning under a year maturity. Permitted investments will consist of obligations issued or secured by the U.S. government or agencies of the U.S. government, municipal securities, which are considered investment grade or better, and overnight purchasing agreements between banks. Additionally, the Steamship Authority can also invest in the Massachusetts Municipal Depository Trust or in mutual funds composed of the above mentioned investments. We do not invest in stocks, other forms of other investment types of instruments that weren't mentioned. Currently, we have been investing in MMDT. Right now, the rate is at 0.25%. Put in perspective, last year is at 1.85%. T-bills are currently at 0.1%, so that's why we're using the MMDT. So looking for a vote from the board to reauthorize the existing investment policy, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
First, do we have a motion in support?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Comments, discussion, questions? All right, you've persuaded us, it looks like. Roll call vote?
Melton, aye.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, I.
Jones, aye.
Wilson, I. Thank you, Mark.
Welcome. Must have been that great rate of return of 0.25%.
Yeah, but it's secure, right?
And then for advanced bookings, just real quickly, looking at the reservations from February through the end of the year, they're pretty much on par with the numbers we used for budget for looking at date comparisons. And I'll be sending something out a little bit later this week on that.
All right, fingers crossed. Oh, Mr. Malcolm.
Yeah, thank you. Mark, given the fact that the advanced bookings, knock on wood, fingers crossed, seem okay, given the current situation, I'd encourage you and the staff to think about what, if anything, we might do for passengers, since the loss of passenger revenue pretty much equaled our operating loss this year. So if there's anything that we might have within our power to do that could accelerate or solidify passenger numbers for this year would be very helpful. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
So now we're on to procurement.
All right. Our first item under procurement is to request that the members authorize the general manager to execute change order number 57 for contract number 9B-2012 Woods Hole Ferry Terminal Design with BIA Studios for a fixed amount of $885,321 to cover its annual construction administration phase services, including inspection and testing services for 2021. This change order seeks the approval for their annual construction administration services. The estimate includes BIA Studios' service estimate as of all the engineering subcontractors. It also includes a cost estimate for testing laboratories and field inspections required under section 3.15 of the contract. So in terms of the projects, when we started the project, we looked at this and made the determination that we'll be coming back on an annual basis to be with these services as the project proceeds. So that way we have a better handle as what those numbers were. I think initially the estimate that we had 4 years ago was that it'd probably be in the area of $800,000. It's coming in at $885,000. So we're looking for the board to authorize the general manager to execute change order number 57 for contract number 9B-2012 Woods Hole Ferry Terminal Design with BIA Studios for a total fixed cost of $885,321 to cover its annual construction administration phase services, including inspection and testing services for 2021.
Ouch.
So before we get into
That's all.
discussion, should we procedurally have a motion to accept it?
Also move.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any comments, questions? Mrs. Tierney, you started to say something.
No, I just said, you know, it's just, this project is somewhat overwhelming.
And this dollar amount is consistent with what was projected a year or two ago? If I'm hearing you.
Yeah, so the original, I think back in 2017, when we were putting the package together, we had anticipated to be in the area of $800,000 at that time. So it is a little bit higher, but you know, in terms of what the experience has been, not to say that the number, we can't come in below the number, because I believe for the 2020 construction administration, they're actually coming in a little underneath that, what that number was, so.
And that's a part of this 885, right?
No, the 885 is separate. This is solely for.
Okay, I see. All right. Any further conversation about this discussion? If not, then I guess we have to vote on this.
Malk and I.
Randy, aye.
Jones, aye.
Tierney, aye.
And Wilson, I. Thank
Thank
you.
Okay, so next we have requests to request the members authorize the general manager to execute change order number 134 for contract number 16-2017 Woods Hole Ferry Terminal Reconstruction Waterside with J. Cashman Inc. at a total cost of $151,281.74. This change order is for additional work required to install the fender systems on the monopiles in slip number 1. So by way of background, during the summer of 2019, We experienced some failures of the tension change on the monopiles in slip number 3. Our engineers, GZA Environmental, investigated the cause of these failures and determined that the original impact range collected from data in 2014 had changed. Specifically, the freeboard data collected for the MV Sanctity and the MV Governor in 2014 was no longer correct. Modifications to the ferries caused the ferries to sit lower in the water, and therefore the rubber rails impacted the fenders lower than the original design. In addition, GZA determined that the title data used in 2014 was not the most up-to-date title data. So the design change results in much larger change in pad eyes required for securing the change to the monopiles and the fenders. The additional welding is requiring the crane use, increases it because the parts is that much heavier than the original design. So the staff is recommending that the members vote to authorize the general manager to execute change order number 134 for contract number 16-2017, Woods Hole Ferry Terminal Reconstruction Waterside with J. Cashman Inc. at a total cost of $151,281.74.
Do we have a vote on this? I mean, excuse me, do we have a motion?
Also move.
And do we have a second before we discuss it, if we're going to discuss it?
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops.
Any comments, questions?
Nope, it is what it is.
I have one question. So I realized that the title data was not up to date, and presumably there are going to be further increases in the title, range. So does this remediation allow for those increases in title movement?
I am told it will.
Good. Do we have any more comments, questions? We ready for a vote? Would someone like to be the first to make a vote in support?
Malcolm, I.
Randy, aye.
Jones, aye.
Tierney,
And Will- Thank you, Ms. Tierney. And Wilson, I. Don't want to push things along too fast, but might as well keep on going while we're got the speed.
All
All
right.
right.
The long-awaited request to purchase electric buses. Want to request approval from the members to authorize the general manager to purchase 3 40-foot low-floor electric transit buses, along with the necessary charging infrastructure that accompanies it, from the lowest responsive contractor, BYD North America, for a total contract price not to exceed $2,950,000. In December 2019, the authority was awarded grant monies from the Volkswagen Settlement Grant Program, which is administered by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, and the Federal Transit Administration's Low or No Emissions Program, or known as LONO, totaling $875,000. These grant monies were intended to offset the price differential between the cost of a conventional diesel-powered bus and the cost of an electric bus and the related infrastructure necessary for their operation. So the authority received $500,000 from the Volkswagen Settlement Grant Program and $375,000 from the FTA Low-No program. The authority has received a price quote from BYD North America, which complies with the Buy American obligations under the federal procurement requirements, of $882,647.27 per bus for a 352 kilowatt model, or $912,647 per bus for a 446 kilowatt model. So the difference being is the runtime that we'll expect to be able to get in those buses. New Flyer, which is the manufacturer of our newest shuttle buses, also complies with the Buy American provision and submitted a price of $921,461 for their model. These prices exclude the charging infrastructure, which is necessary, nor does it include the expense related to the installation of those charging stations. So the authority in November of 2019 partnered with the Merrimack Valley Regional Transit Authority, the Martha's Vineyard Regional Transit Authority, as well as 12 other regional transit authorities on a joint request for proposal for pricing for buses, 30-foot buses, 35-foot buses, and 40-foot buses. And there's pricing for diesel as well as electric under those contracts, and we can purchase under those contracts over the next 5 years. So as part of this, we're asking the authority members to vote to authorize the general manager to purchase 3 40-foot low-floor electric transit buses, along with the necessary charging infrastructure that accompanies it from the lowest responsible bidder, BYD North America, for a total price not to exceed $2,950,000. And then we'd be applying for the reimbursement for the $875,000 once we receive those buses.
So what's the, what is our up cost?
Upfront will be 2.9, $2,950,000, but we'll get reimbursements for $875,000 afterwards. So
So we're out of pocket.
And then we also have some additional costs for installation of the charging stations at our facility here on Palmer Ave, and also one in Hyannis, because one of these buses will be assigned to the Hyannis route as well.
Glad to hear it. Just an off comment, until the electric buses and the rest is a start in the problem. But until the generation of electricity is purely, is not, taken burning coal and other products like that, it's not a 100% recovery on the carbon emissions.
Do we have a vote in support of this? I mean, a motion, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion in support of this?
I would move the motion. Thank you.
I'd second it.
Any further discussion?
I just have a question. Are these buses going to be the primary buses on the routes, or are they going to sort of, are they better used, I guess, for busier times or not? I'm just curious.
It's going to take 12 to 14 months to get these buses. And I think at the time that we get them, we will be putting them right into service. The models that we're purchasing are similar to the models that we most recently bought, which has both a front door and a mid-body door for ease of people getting in and out. Because they're low floor models to begin with, and there's a ramp, so there's no need for wheelchair lifts on these buses. It makes it more convenient for our customers that are mobility challenged to be getting in and out of these buses. So I anticipate that they'll be placed into service most of the time. The charging, we did do a test with the VTA where they were kind enough to loan us one of their buses for 2 weeks. As we did a proof of concept on how long we would be able to get a charge out of the bus on our routes. As an example, we were able to, a bus was able to operate a full 8-hour shift for a driver and still have over 20% of its battery capacity left. That, of course, varies depending upon how it's driven and the environmental conditions, whether it's it's hot and they're running the air conditioning, or whether it's cold and that drains on the batteries as well. So, there will be a learning curve that we'll have as well in terms of this, but I fully expect these buses to be used on a daily basis.
Mr. Jones?
Hey, yeah, I just have, I won't delay this, but I just have one question. Is this, the recharging, is this a plug-in situation, or is this by, electromagnets, like the proposal we had, a couple of years ago, where the bus drives into the pad and it recharges there and they go about their way? So I guess the question is this a plug-in or not?
Yeah, it will be connected by an umbilical cord. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Malkin?
Thank you. As I'm sure everybody knows, the governor has issued an order requiring the sale of all new vehicles to be electric by, is it 2030, 2050? Not sure. But so electric is coming. I'm glad that we're moving this way with the buses. And as part of, since we started talking about long range visioning or task forcing, one thing that I'd like the Steamship Authority to think about, Mr. Davis, is when we do get to the point that there are either hybrid electric and diesel or electric ferries, we're going to need charging facilities and stations at our terminal facilities, at our docks. And we'll need to start putting some thought into how that will work going forward. Thank you.
The infrastructure that's going to be necessary to, for ferry operations, we have the, vessels that berth on the islands as well overnight, and how quickly they can be charged. It's all will be a factor into those decisions.
Real estate, so on and so forth. Yep.
Get your checkbook out.
Yeah.
All right, then. Do we have a vote that we'd like to take on this?
Malkin, aye.
Any aye.
Tierney, Tierney, aye.
And Wilson, aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So
We've just been asked for a quick moment while Steve updates his battery.
Speaking of which.
All right. So next item is under old and new. I'd like to announce the determination of which portions of the minutes of the members' meetings in executive session shall no longer be withheld from publication. The open meeting law provides that the minutes of any meeting in executive session may remain secret as long as the publication may defeat the lawful purpose of the executive session, but no longer. In order to comply with this mandate and to minimize the administrative burden of reviewing executive session minutes to determine whether they should remain secret, despite requests for them, many years ago, the members voted to delegate to the general manager and the members' responsibility to approve appropriate portions of the minutes of the members' meetings in executive session for release to the public, when the publication of such portions will no longer defeat the lawful purpose of the executive session. Revisions to the open meeting law also describe when the authority should release the public executive session minutes that reflect the members' discussions and actions regarding litigation, collective bargaining matters, real estate negotiations, contract negotiations with non-union employees, namely, at such time as litigation, negotiation, or bargaining position is no longer jeopardized by such disclosure, with the exception that the extent that attorney-client privileges apply to allow the authority to continue to withhold those portions of the minutes from disclosure. Fortunately, the revisions to the open meeting law reflect what the authority has long been doing. Today, I am announcing that I have approved for release to the public all portions of such minutes through the end of 2019 and a portion of the previously unpublished 2018 minutes addressing contract negotiations with SEIU Local 888, except those that fall within the 8 numbered categories listed in the staff summary. The portions of the executive session minutes now being released to the public include those pertaining to A, the authority's 2018-2019 negotiations for new collective bargaining agreements and amendments to the current collective bargaining agreements with SEIU Local 888 governing the terms and conditions of employment for the authority's reservation employees. B, the authority's renewal of a lease with Woodland Trust and G&B Realty Trust for property located at 1251 Route 28A in Katomet, Mass. C, the authority's potential acquisition of property owned by Joseph Arnold located at 31 Easy Street in Nantucket, Mass. D, the authority's potential lease of office space and additional square footage at the authority's vehicle maintenance facility from A&G Business Trust for property located at 485 Thomas B. Landers Road, Falmouth, Mass. And E, the authority's strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation with unions of all the authority's represented employees concerning the implementation of the Commonwealth's paid family medical leave law.
I'd so move.
It actually doesn't require a vote. It's for informational purposes only. Those minutes, as I said, under the authorities that have been delegated to the general manager, these are the minutes we're going to be releasing at this time.
Thank you, Bob. Are there any other items not reasonably anticipated that we'd like to go over? Then we should open this up for public comment.
There was a comment in the chat, Ms. Wilson, asking if the SSA switched to or considered switching to using a non-fossil fuel-based electricity provider.
Well,
Bob, can you speak to that?
yeah, so the amount of electricity demands that we have for our operations, we purchase our electric is primarily under the Cape Light Compact power agreements. We'd have to look at that to see whether they have any, whether they identify any incentives for non-fossil fuel based electric providers in that contract. So
But it's worth looking into.
we are continuing to pursue the solar panels on our Thomas B. Landers parking lot as well.
Good.
If there's any other public comment, you can raise your hand on your Zoom.
All right, no hands raised. Sean, you don't see any hands raised, right?
No, you can carry on.
Then I guess our next step is to make a motion to end this meeting and do another motion to go into executive session. What's the protocol?
It'd be a motion to go into executive session.
All right, then. I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss and approve the minutes of the authorities meeting in executive session on December 15th, 2020, and to discuss the authority's strategy with respect to collective bargaining matters because a public discussion of these matters may have a detrimental effect on the authority's negotiating and bargaining positions. These matters include anticipated negotiations with the unions, do any Teamsters Union Local 59, SEIU Local 888, and MEBA of all the authorities represented employees regarding contract renewals. The public disclosure of any more information with respect to these matters would compromise the purposes for which the executive session is being called. After the conclusion of the executive session, we will not reconvene in public. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
And may I have a roll call vote, please?
Malcolm, I.
Randy, I.
Jones, aye.
Tierney, aye.
And Wilson, I. As a reminder, all members participating remotely may participate in an executive session, but shall state at the start of any such session that no other person is present and or able to hear the discussion at the remote location.
Well, if y'all want to sign off, I have 12:04 right now. So if you want to sign back in at
12:10.
in 12:10, so 6 minutes, and then we'll get started on the closed session.
Will do. Thanks, everybody.
Do we have to sign off?
You do, because otherwise I won't, you need to sign out and sign back in again so that we can clear out the attendees section.
Okay, do we use the same sign in?
Yes, just sign right back into the meeting, the same sign in protocol that you did to start off.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.